Okay, I just put my address up there for anyone who needs face shields.
Thanks
Good.
so much.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, we're on our way.
Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. With the Rotary cowbell. Welcome to our celebration of service for July 28th, 2020. I'm your current president, Ashley Sullivan. Thank you so much for being here. We have lots of people joining us today. Great to see all your faces all in one place. I'd like to introduce Raj Hidawi, who will be offering our reflection today. Raj?
I think Raj is here, but I'm not sure that he can hear you.
Do you hear me?
Oh, there you are. You can hear you.
Yes. Somehow my connection is not good. Well, you're calling me, I presume, on the reflection, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I heard it then. Well, my reflection today, covering a town action recently taken, which worth sharing with you. And it is the town which a lot of you are familiar, maybe even visited or stayed in for a while, located in western North Carolina at the foothill of the Blue Ridge Mountain. It is the city of Asheville. Asheville is a city in the heart of the South, but made waves in the last 2 weeks that brought national attention. And I felt if any of you haven't heard this, you need to know about it. Asheville is a city of 93,000 people with a large suburb area not counted in the city. Out of them, 12% is African American. The city history is very pronounced. A lot of you who visited the area, they knew about the Biltmore, the largest house ever built in the history of mankind, 178,000 square foot. Nobody built bigger since that time. The city attracts about 1.5 to 2 million visitors per year. It has an outstanding historical hotel called Grove Plaza, where 10 of our presidents stayed in the place. The last one stayed was President Obama. The city is a mecca for Hollywood. Major movies made, such as The Last Mohican, The Hungers, and others. The city is a birthplace of the author Tom Wolfe, with all his writing came from the city. Scott Fitzgerald did stop by several summers for the air and the quality of the weather for recovery and writing. Put all that knowledge aside, the thing which I want to talk to you happened 2 weeks ago today. The city council, which is made from 7 people, 2 African American and 5 white people, includes the mayor, passed a reparation resolution. Never heard about it in anywhere here in the Carolina or the South. And I took some notes to share with you. The reparation called and passed 7-0 by the city. For apology extended to the African American community for the role of the city in slavery and continuing injustice for the African American in the city. Second thing, they are committed to initiate a program to improve ownership of homes to the Black community, helping the small businesses and education for the African American population. The city will be established a commission made from businesses, from special group, as well as the elected official to draft a plan to be implemented and funded by the city. Of course, this decision came out with a lot of pointing finger criticism one way or the other. But the elected official, they convinced the people that with their power of government, they will be able to implement it. And they look for people like us to bring a support in our communities to action. They take it in Asheville and to help Asheville promote the program, everybody looking for a state as well as federal government to come. That is a message I receive and a message I share. And that is my reflection.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Welcome.
We look to each and every one of you to share these things that we see in communities around the world that we can be a part of. So thank you for sharing that. And if you too would like to share a reflection of things that you find, please sign up. There's a link in the roundabout that you can sign up to give our next reflections. Next week is spoken for, but after that we have some openings. Now for the introduction of guests. Jim Bright, would you introduce any visiting Rotarians and your guests, please?
Thank you. Joining us is a fine Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Evansville, and he's also our district secretary, Randy Wheeler. Randy, welcome back. Good to have you. Also today, I'm pleased to introduce as my guest someone who a lot of you already know, and that's Liz Granat. Liz is executive director of CJAM, the Community Justice and Mediation Center. Liz, by the way, was a former member of our club and former executive director for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So welcome, Liz. And now I'm going to hand it back to Raj, and I think Raj may have a special guest to introduce. Raj Hadawi, are you there? Okay, are there any guests I missed?
I am here. Do you hear me?
Yes.
My guest today is Iris Kiesling, a well-known name in the community. If any of us really, truly look up for service above self, don't have to look any further than Iris. Iris, a person who came to Bloomington back in 1966 with her late husband as a professor in the business school. Iris, before she came to Bloomington, she marched more than in one occasion in civil rights movement in her state of New Jersey. When Iris arrived to Bloomington, immediately involved in the League of Women Voters. Later on, served 9 years as a city council person. Then she served 4 terms as a commissioner of Monroe County. I know Iris very well from days early, and she did help me in establishing the volunteer in medicine in 2006, where she convinced the commissioner to grant fund to the VIM to cover the costs of the poor and the uninsured pregnant women in the community. So I'm very grateful, and I am very delighted to introduce Iris to the member of the club.
Okay, thank you, Raj, and welcome, Iris. Iris, by the way, is a fellow Paul Harris Fellow as well. So great to have you, Iris. Also, I see Marcus Debro has joined us. Marcus is the assistant principal at Bloomington North High School. And it's great to see everybody here today. We have a number of Rotarians who we haven't seen for a while, including Roseanne Levy, Joe King, Wendell St. John, Clint Baugh, and others. So welcome, everybody. Back to you, President Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks to our producers, Alon Barker and Michael Shermis, and our roundabout reporter, Bill Perkins. This is his last week, so thank you for your service, Bill. Great roundabouts. And Rotarians in the news, celebration for Chris Michael Morrison and his family. Their daughter, Liberty, was released from Riley Children's Hospital after surgery and a 41-day stay. She's now at home recovering, and I'm sure they would appreciate a note of healing and friendship from fellow Rotarians and friends. So their address will be included in the roundabout to send a note of encouragement, and I hope that we will do so. A few announcements. The Rotary Toast. It was great to see the Herald Times story about our November 6th Bloomington Rotary Toast. As reported, this year's toast will be a virtual event, and it will honor longtime sports writer and author Bob Hamill. Bob Hamill has chosen the Hoosier Hills Food Bank as his charity of choice. Sarah Laughlin is this year's chair, and Jim Bright is chairing PR. Mike Baker is heading up sponsorships. So if your business or organization would like to sponsor the toast, contact Mike. He'll set you up. And in the coming weeks, we'll tell you more about how you and your friends can register. But more info to come. So that should be very exciting. Our own Rotary Club committee signups will be making the rounds this week. You'll receive an opportunity to sign up via email for one of our committees. If you'd like to remain on your current committee, please indicate that on your sign up again so that I can have you on the official record. I have confirmations from many of you, and I remember them, but I just want to make sure that no one's overlooked. If you're unsure what committees you've been on, let me know and I'll give you that information. Face masks, we're placing an order for the Rotary face masks. The picture went in at the roundabout last week. We had 18 members indicate they'd like one so far. So if you would like one, reach out to Natalie by this Thursday, July 30th, so we can place an order. And the amount can be added to your bill, or you can send in a check, and all the information will be in the roundabout once again. Now, I am thrilled to introduce Trent Deckard for a new member induction.
Thank you very much, President Ashley. It is great to be back for a membership induction today. This is a highlight of what the membership committee gets to do with Rotary, and we have we will be, both Dave Myers and I will be conducting this ceremonial event. We're welcoming Connie Shikalis to Bloomington Rotary. She's been our guest for a little bit here alongside our friend Gus there, my good friend Gus, and will be joining as a family member, the new program that we're, again, as Rotary changes, adapts, and evolves to meet the needs of today. We're pleased to have this as our first family induction today. I'm going to start with a biography or a little bit of bio about Connie, and then I'll jump over to Dave, who will conduct the induction ceremony. A past member of Actors Equity Association, Connie Shikalis has held 18 leading roles throughout the U.S. and graduated summa cum laude from State University of New York with a Bachelor of Science degree in Professional Communications. She's the founder of the Imps, an improv group here in Bloomington. In New York City, she performed her one-woman show in 20 cabaret clubs and was a regular soloist with Long Island's Opera Night and the Accordion Alliance. She's also soloed in concerts in Indiana and New York. In Indiana, she performed with Bloomington Playwrights Project, for whom she also wrote 2 short plays, Cardinal Stage, My Sister's Closet Theater, Friends of Southern Indiana, Friends of Southern Indiana Wind Ensemble, and Sigma Alpha Iota International Music Fraternity. She studied voice with Linda Hall, assistant conductor at the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and wrote and directed walking tours throughout Manhattan. Wow. In Manhattan, she was a copy editor of medical journals and textbooks. She's a freelance writer for our own Herald Times, and her articles have also been published in AARP Bulletin online, Sycamore Land Trust's newsletter, and several newspapers in New York. She is the editor and designer for Meadowood Health Pavilion's newsletter, The Reporter. She was a hospice volunteer on Long Island and was a New York State certified ombudsman for nursing home residents. And now I will turn it over to my fellow co-chair, Dave Myers, for the induction ceremony of Connie.
Connie, on behalf of the board and membership of the Bloomington Rotary Club, it is a great pleasure to welcome you as our newest member of our club. We look forward to the fellowship that you will share, as well as your participation in many club projects that make our community, country, and world a better place. Though Rotary is not a political organization, Rotarians are vitally concerned with good citizenship and the election of strong leaders to public office. While Rotary is not a religious organization, it is built on those eternal principles that have served as a moral compass for people throughout the ages. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people pledged to uphold the highest ethical and moral standards. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and peace can be achieved when people unite with a Rotary motto of service above self. Rotary activities exemplify the charity and sacrifice that one would expect from people who believe that they have a responsibility to help others. Connie, you have been chosen for membership in the Bloomington Rotary Club because your fellow members believe you to be a leader in our community and because you possess the qualities to champion the message and principles of Rotary. You are a representative of your vocation within our club and community. You now become an ambassador of Bloomington Rotary, carrying the ideals of service to all within your sphere of influence. Our community will know and judge Rotary by your character and service. We will also look to you for inspiration as we strive to become better Rotarians. I now ask that you pen yourself with the distinguished badge of a Rotarian, your Rotary pen. We ask that you wear your Rotary pen with pride, not only to all Rotary functions, but in your many endeavors as a symbol of your commitment to Rotary ideals and recognition of your contribution toward a better world. Fellow Rotarians, please rise and welcome our newest Rotarian, Connie Shakelis.
Yay! Welcome, Connie. You have officially joined the ranks. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm honored, really. I'm very, very honored. I hope I can live up to these wonderful expectations that Rotary has.
I'm sure you will. Thank you for joining us, and we have many years of service and celebration ahead. Now for a volunteering service spotlight. Quickly here, we'll be offering at least one volunteering opportunity every month. Right now we have 3 opportunities available. If you know of anything that you'd like to share, please let me know. Helping Hands still has opportunities available that will be ongoing. I'll mention that every week just so you can know you can always sign up. The address to sign up or the phone number will both be in the roundabout. Community Kitchen, we have August volunteer opportunities open for meal serving shifts from 3:30 to 6:30 for 3 volunteers each on Friday, August 7th and Friday, August 21st. You can sign up by letting me know, and there will be a link in the roundabout to sign up for spots. It's very small groups, so just 2 groups of 3 right now. If more people are interested, we can take on more shifts, but we thought we'd start there. Also, Teachers Warehouse. Volunteers are needed almost every day, Monday through Friday, so you can volunteer by emailing volunteers@teacherswarehouse.org. And speaking of Teachers Warehouse, I'd like to introduce Ron Barnes with a special announcement.
Thanks, President Ashley. As most of you know, Teachers Warehouse was really formed by our Rotary Club 16 years ago. It started as a dream. Then we worked out of a small little place. Now we're in a very functioning school with a lot of opportunities, and we really need your help today. As you know, this pandemic has changed the way our lives are right now, and it's changed how our normal supply drive, which really helps feed the whole system. Last year we served over 1,058 teachers before we closed down in March. And again, this was based on the supplies we were able to get. And we're forced now because of the change. And if you'll recall, last year, many of us stood out in front of the Staples and Office Max and Kroger's and Walmart handing out our wish list, and people dropped into the bins as they came out and they purchased things for us. That's not happening this year. The best we can do are some bins, and again, hoping people will drop off. We've had to purchase more supplies to make this work this year, and we need your monetary help. So quite frankly, if you can write a check for the Teachers Warehouse to show what our other sister clubs have done, the Breakfast Club has come up with $6,000 for us, and the Thursday Club, $3,000 already. And I hope that our club can match those numbers with that kind of support. And with your continued support and volunteering for the Teachers Warehouse, we will be able to serve the teachers adequately as they prepare for another year. The Blitz started yesterday. It was a booming success. So thank you in advance for your help. We really need it. And thanks, Ashley, for giving me a spot on the agenda.
No problem. Ron, if someone does want to write a check, who do they make it out to and where do they direct the check?
Well, obviously, they can send it to Natalie if they want, or to the Teachers Warehouse. We have an address here somewhere, but they can also go online to Teacher Warehouse, and there's an opportunity to donate. And they can also go on to Amazon and purchase supplies and donate. So there's several different ways that you can do this, but your check is very important.
We'll have all of those different options in the roundabout for you to be able to access. Thank you very much. Okay, we have just a few minutes for some happy dollars. I don't want to lose sight of having some celebration. So there is Alon, will you put the link to the PayPal for happy dollars in the chat? If you would like to donate, this money will also go to Teachers Warehouse. So today will be just a big fundraising event for our beloved Teachers Warehouse. First, happy dollars. I don't see any.
I'd like to pledge happy dollars.
Okay.
I'm way behind in pledging happy dollars, so I pledge $50 to Teachers Warehouse, also because I just learned and also read in the paper that Teachers Warehouse needs a lot of money. I have a lot of things to be happy about. I also want to make this donation in honor of my former student, Sherry Mitchell-Brooker, Dr. Sherry Mitchell-Brooker, a longtime friend and colleague who is presenting today. Thanks.
Thanks, Hank. Owen?
I want to give some happy dollars in honor of Mark Cuban, who yesterday donated $250,000 to the media school in support of Black voices.
Fantastic.
Hello. Me. I want to donate 50 happy dollars because I'm happy Connie is joining the Rotary. And besides, she's the only one in the family that's working.
This is Glenda, and I will also donate 50 happy dollars in congratulations to Connie for joining the club, and congratulations to Trent Deckard for his fundraising and efforts for Shalom. And one more thing, and that is the honoring Bob Hamill in November. That's great.
Thanks, Glenda. Anyone else? You'll have to speak up because I can't see everyone at once. Okay. Well, we will move on then. I'd like to introduce Michael Shermis to introduce our speaker today.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Sherry Mitchell-Brugger is the president and founder of Friends of Lake Monroe. She received a master's and doctorate from Indiana University School of Public Environmental Affairs. Her career in environmental hydrology includes research, consulting, and management, and has taken her from Indiana to the Everglades, to the Sierra Nevada, and back home to Indiana. I had the distinct pleasure of working with Sherry and her fellow members of the Friends of Lake Monroe in a couple of retreats where I got to work with them closely. And, you know, I do an awful lot of retreats for a lot of nonprofits, but this one really struck me because it hits home. I mean, folks, this is our drinking water. And I understand, you know, the need to have it for other purposes, recreation and all that. And I got out of those retreats that Friends of Lake Monroe is working hard to make it safe for all of us and usable and all of that. And it was just really impressive to work with them. And so I was very honored to, when I asked her to come speak to us, and she agreed. And so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Sherry. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Hank, for that donation in my name. That was very nice. Hank was my professor under my doctorate. So I'm just going to jump right ahead and share my screen. Oh, host has to enable me.
Yeah, you can go now and try again.
Okay. Okay. So today I want to talk about building a watershed management plan for Lake Monroe. Whoops. Friends of Lake Monroe is, this is actually the vision statement that we worked on when Michael had a retreat with us. We envision a diverse regional community that appreciates, sustains, and enjoys the lake, including its larger surrounding ecosystems, to ensure drinkable, swimmable, and fishable waters. Lake Monroe was built in the early 60s, and its primary purpose was flood control. But the state of Indiana also put in money to ensure water supply. And the slide needs updating because now we're talking about it providing drinking water for about 140,000 people. Lake Monroe hosts about 1 million visitors per year, provides wildlife habitat for fish, birds, beavers, otters, muskrats, lots of fish and wildlife that are hosted by the lake, and provides economic benefits. The water alone, the water that's available for water supply, has been valued by the Corps of Engineers at $150 million per year. That's just the water, but then there's more millions of dollars that fuel the local economies for marinas, restaurants, campgrounds, hotels, gas stations, etc. So it's a big economic benefit for our community, as well as the drinking water aspect. It's not moving. This is a map of the Lake Monroe watershed. A watershed is the area of land that contributes water to a body of water. So this area in brown, that's the watershed. These are the high points, the ridges. And then these are the streams. This is the North Fork, Middle Fork, and South Fork of Salt Creek that feed into Lake Monroe. 24% of the watershed is in Monroe County, 54% in Brown, 20% in Jackson, and then a small amount in Lawrence and Bartholomew counties. It's a very large watershed, 423 square miles. And the ratio of the watershed to the lake is about 25-1. So what that means is that all these little things that are happening in this big watershed get concentrated down and wind up here in the lake. And so this is one of the reasons why we need to consider the entire watershed when we think about water quality in the lake. So I want to talk about just some of the issues that we face. One of the problems is that we have nutrient loading. We have, are you guys seeing this pictures gallery on the side here? Let me close that.
Yeah, we can see the PowerPoint presentation looks good.
Okay, okay. So, oops. We have runoff that comes from rainfall interacting with the land surface from residential areas, fertilizers, different types of animal waste and so forth. And then we also have farm runoff from fertilizers and pesticides and soil erosion. These carry nutrients into the lake. Also, a source of nutrients is erosion from steep slopes and from stream banks and the shoreline of the lake itself. And all of the sediment goes into the lake as sediment, but it's also carrying nutrients. And one of the problems that we face is blue-green algae. If we get too much blue-green algae, we would have harmful algal blooms. And this happens every year, usually around this time of year. The problem with algal blooms is that this blue-green algae carries with it toxins, and these toxins that are especially hazardous at certain concentrations, which are regulated. Now, we don't usually detect the toxins in the lake. What we have usually around this time of year, and it's currently that point where we have a count of the algal cells of more than 100,000. And so that puts us into the lowest level of recreational advisory. And that advisory tells you don't swallow the lake water. Keep your pets out of the water, but if you do let them in the water, clean them afterwards because they lick their fur and they might have algae on their fur and get a super dose of it. And then also shower with soap and hot water after swimming. Another problem with this algae is that when the algae and sediment are in the water and that water goes into the water treatment plant, chlorine is added, and that chlorine interacts to form what's called disinfectant byproducts. And those include chemicals like trihalomethane and haloacetic acid, which can be toxic if consumed in large doses over a long period of time. So this graph that you see here is a graph of the concentration of haloacetic acid over time, starting in 2012. And you can see that it reached a peak around 2016. And that was a level of concern for the utility and for the people in the community that it was getting too close for comfort at that maximum allowable level. And so they made some changes in personnel, actually, because that's when Mayor Hamilton came in. He hired Vic Kelson, who also studied under Hank Heichema and is a very good hydrologist and chemist. And so they made changes to the process that lowered those concentrations of haloacetic acid and other disinfectant byproducts. But then other problems, operational problems, extra costs come along with that. So, it's in our best interest for our drinking water to try to keep that algae and sediment at a minimum level in order to keep our drinking water clean. Another issue is mercury. There is mercury in the fish, there's mercury in the sediments, there's mercury in the water in low concentrations. And what happens with the mercury is that it goes through a process where the big fish eat the little fish, and then the larger fish eat those fish, and it's a biomagnification. The concentration gets higher with each step in the food chain. And so when it gets to humans, then we are at risk when we eat the fish containing mercury. So there are warnings out about how often, I can't tell you exactly what the level is, but how often you can eat fish out of the lake, but it is a concern. And this mercury that is in the lake comes primarily from coal-fired power plants that get into the atmosphere, and then the mercury comes down with the rainwater, and also just atmospheric dust settles in the waterways and gets into the food chain. So that can be an issue. We haven't seen any problems with the eagles or some of the other fish-eating birds. So we don't have concentrations that seem to be high enough at this point to cause a problem for the wildlife. It's very interesting. Sometimes my keyboard works and sometimes it doesn't. Another problem, and this is one of the things that really got me started with the Friends of Lake Monroe, is the trash that we find in the lake and around the shoreline. And you know, this fishing line, this is a problem. You see it all over the shoreline. You see the bobbers hanging from the trees, and this can be a hazard to wildlife. And this plastic can break down, and we really don't understand the process of what happens to this plastic after it breaks down. But we do know that there is increasing concern about microplastics in freshwaters as well as in the ocean. So we are very concerned about trash and plastics in the lake, and have active programs to clean up the shoreline. Another issue is invasive species. We have invasive plants like, I believe this is, not LOD, I always forget the name of this one, but anyway, a variety of invasive plants that can come into the lake, and also invasive fish. The Fish and Wildlife is especially concerned about this carp that has been found below the spillway in Salt Creek, below the dam. And so they don't want people bait fishing there, because if this fish gets introduced into the lake, it gets very big. It takes over the fishery and is highly invasive. So when I came back to Bloomington after being gone for quite a while, and found out that there was no watershed group, and we formed the Friends of Lake Monroe. We started with a Facebook page and worked our way into you know, a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to protect and enhance Lake Monroe and its watershed through science, advocacy, and public involvement, working collaboratively with citizens, government, and business to improve and support lake water quality. We worked with the City of Bloomington and Nature Conservancy and others to come up with some water quality goals that included preventing algal blooms, minimizing nutrient inputs to the lake, particularly phosphorus, minimizing sediment delivery to the lake, maintaining water storage capacity, minimizing total organic carbon that feeds those disinfectant byproducts, and preserving and enhancing the Lake Monroe watershed and its habitats. We meet our goals through education and public awareness, scientific investigations, and watershed planning, which is what I want to focus on today. We have been awarded a grant to fund IU scientists and to hire a watershed coordinator to collect data and formulate a watershed plan. This is Maggie Sullivan. She is our watershed coordinator. She is actually a very excellent watershed coordinator. I felt very lucky that we have her working with us. And so she is in charge of the watershed management plan, which includes outreach, water quality monitoring, and plan formulation. We have a steering committee of 27 members, And this includes in, the soil and water conservation districts, Monroe County, the City of Bloomington Utilities, the Geological Survey, USDA, Chamber of Commerce, Visit Bloomington, Indiana University, Hoosier National Forest, Audubon Society, and others that I haven't included here. So the purpose of this steering committee is to help guide us and make sure that when we come up with a plan, it's a plan that the entire community can support. Our outreach also includes meeting with public agencies to talk about issues with the lake, classroom educational sessions, which have been a little bit difficult with the COVID, press releases like the ones you see here. The Friends of Lake Monroe newsletter has a monthly update on what's going on with the watershed plan, and in addition to lots of other information. Road signs, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and a watershed awareness display that we're designing to take to farmers market and other public events to raise public awareness. And then we're also working with IU Media School to make public service announcements. One of the first things that we did when we started on this, implementing this grant, was have community forums. We had one in Bloomington and one in Nashville, 60 attendees in Bloomington, over 50 in Nashville. These folks came out, I gave a quick talk, and then they got together in groups and identified issues that they thought were important for us to address. We're now in the process of working with the steering committee to formulate problem statements based on the issues that were brought up by the citizens, and also those brought up by the Friends of Lake Monroe and the watershed coordinator and the steering committee. We're also designing signs. Maggie worked with other members of Friends of Lake Monroe to design this sign, which is going to be posted in various locations. We have approval for these locations in Monroe County, and we will be talking with Brown and Jackson County about posting signs there as well. And this is just pretty much to give people an awareness of whether they are in the watershed, whether they live in the watershed, and how large that watershed is compared to the lake itself. We have a contract with IU SPIA to conduct water quality monitoring. They are monitoring both stream flow in the watershed, taking stream water quality samples, also lake water quality samples. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this sampling blitz. So these are the locations that SPIA is monitoring in the lake. So we want to get various segments above and below the causeway, and then also at the dam. And the Corps of Engineers is also coordinating with us in their lake monitoring. We also have monitoring of the major tributaries to the lake. That includes the North Fork, the Middle Fork, the South Fork, and Crooked Creek. And you see these areas with the yellow box. Those are the areas in a previous study done by Bill Jones at SPIA. We tried to work and get close to those sites when possible, but we eliminated a few of those sites that had less loading associated with them. We also monitored the tailwater, and the idea is that we get how much of these nutrients are coming into the lake, how much is stored inside of the lake, how much is leaving. And so we get what is called a nutrient budget. Now for the fall sampling blitz, this is a big push that we have right now to get volunteers. That's going to happen on September 18th, sorry. And the idea of this is to get a snapshot view of the entire watershed all at one time, a very detailed look. So we are going to have 100 volunteers at 125 sampling sites with 5 staging locations. So the green is the sampling sites, and these stars are the staging locations where volunteers will report to. The volunteers will get trained, and they will go out to the streams and collect samples for analyzing E. coli, sediment, and nutrients. Now, we were supposed to start this in the spring, but because of COVID, we couldn't. And we've had to, and when I say we, it's Indiana University and Maggie who've been working on this procedures to make this sampling blitz safe in terms of the virus. And so we've designed a protocol where either you go out in pairs of two that are from the same household, or else if you have two people who aren't from the same household, they go in separate cars. One person would be doing collecting the samples, another person doing the recording, so you're not touching the same things. Basically, you're going to take a few measurements in the stream, collect samples that then will be taken to IUSPIA lab for analysis. In addition to the sampling that we're doing, we are coordinating with the Brown County Regional Sewer District, who has an independent project to identify sources of E. coli contamination in the watershed in Brown County. And so this green area is the portion of their project that is in the Lake Monroe watershed. These yellow spots are areas where they will be sampling and sharing their information with us. Additionally, we worked with the Monroe County Stormwater and the City of Bloomington Utilities to get a gauging station that the USGS has installed on the South Fork of Salt Creek. This was extremely important to our project in that we are getting monthly samples at the streams, but this is a continuous flow measurement, and so we can correlate our monthly readings to this continuous flow in the South Fork. And we chose the South Fork because this in the 1996, which was the most recent study before ours, the South Fork was the highest loading of nutrients into the lake. This is also the area that has the most agriculture. I should point out that 80% of the watershed is forested. So we're very different than a lot of areas that have done these watershed management plans. And we have to do things a little differently than others. What we will be doing is developing targets and goals. So we'll take all that data that we collected from the sampling and the sampling blitz and determine pollutant loads. And using those loads, we'll set goals, as an example, of 5% reduction in total phosphorus per year. And then we might say, well, where do we need to implement projects in order to get that reduction? And those might be critical areas. For example, maybe the Little Salt Creek that has had some problems that we would focus on. And then we work on how to meet those goals. Best management practices, stream bank stabilization, building wetlands, those are all possibilities. Changes in operation of the water levels in the lake, all of those things might come into play, but we really don't know which of these will be most important until we get all of that data and analyze it and make some decisions. But once we have, then we might come up with a table that looks something like this. And this is more area that's agriculture. So they're estimating that if they put in, cover crops like 8,000 acres, that they would get this kind of nutrient and sediment reduction. We look at what the cost would be, and then we start looking for funding to implement these actions. So the final product that we would produce would be an action plan that says, here's our objective, here's our target audience, here's the milestones that measure our success, here's what's going to cost us, here's who we can work with, and we might get some technical assistance. And so the expectation is that we would look to multiple sources, including IDEM, which funded this project, to implement the action plan. So you're a service organization. I'm just imagining that and hoping that you're sitting out there saying, how can I help? And of course, the first thing you could do is join Friends of Lake Monroe by having a stable membership that contributes to our work. That helps us become a sustainable organization, which is really important. I feel like Friends of Lake Monroe has filled a gap. We have all of these different agencies, the Corps of Engineers, DNR Parks, the Hoosier National Forest, the City of Bloomington, Monroe County, and they all have different viewpoints. And so we serve as kind of a hub to bring all those people together to talk about the lake and to take action. The other thing that you can do is join the Friends of Lake Monroe committee. We are particularly looking for someone with QuickBooks experience to help us out on our finance committee and hopefully move into a treasurer position. We also have governance programs and development committees, which we would welcome your efforts in. And a really easy thing to do and fun thing to do would be to sign up for the sampling blitz. You can do this by going to this site, but the easiest way is just to Google Friends of Lake Monroe. You'll come right to our website, and it'll be pretty obvious, I think, on that front page where you can sign up for the sampling blitz. So this is going to be, it's not that hard. There's going to be some driving involved, but Maggie has gone out and made sure that these are streams that we can get to, and it'll be a big help in a way for you to have a part in the science behind our watershed plan. Another thing that you can do is sign up for a shoreline trash cleanup. Again, just go to our website. You'll see it there on the front page. And we do this monthly at Paintown. And I have noticed since we've started these cleanup programs, both us and DNR, that there is less trash on the shoreline. There's still trash, but I think that we are making a difference. So that's a great thing to do. And there's also educational and outreach projects that we do that we could use help on. And just as a person who recreates on the lake or in the watershed, leave no trace when you're boating, hiking, or other forms of recreation. And then if you live in the watershed, you know, this is the case even if you don't live in the watershed, but directly affecting the lake, you know, minimize your use of fertilizers and pesticides, which ultimately might wind up in water bodies like the Lake Monroe. Make sure that you dispose of waste properly, and then maintain, I don't know what happened here, maintain your septic systems. So those are ways that you can help. Again, here is a link that tells you how to join Friends of Lake Monroe. And we have electronic newsletter that is available whether or not you join, just by going to our webpage and signing up to get the newsletter. We have public meetings every 2 months, and we usually have a guest speaker. Pretty interesting people have come to talk. Then we also have educational and recreational events. We take legislative action when needed. We have lots of volunteer opportunities and working on this watershed monitoring and planning. So I feel like Friends of Lake Monroe has, in its short lifetime, contributed quite a bit to the awareness of water quality in the lake, and we hope to be making a big difference in the future. So I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
That was great.
Anyone have a question?
I have a happy dollar thought.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations for hiring Maggie Sullivan. I don't think you could have found a better person. She's just wonderful to work with. And I'll put in $50 for Teachers Warehouse to congratulate them for that. And I think I met Sherry when she was just getting going on this. I wish I could do more at this point, but I'll try to figure out something to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Anyone else have a question for Sherry?
Sherry, are you a volunteer? Are you doing all of this as a volunteer?
Yes, I am.
My goodness. I'm really, this was a great program. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is a big job, and we're hoping to get funding to have more staff and kind of take some of the work off of. It's helped a lot to have Maggie, but you know, there's other things that our board does, and it would be great to have some paid staff to help us out.
Hi, this is Martha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Martha.
So how much difference does the fact that we now get really downpours or we don't get downpours? What does a downpour do to the lake?
It makes a big difference. We're seeing that the way I've seen it most is talking with the water treatment Vic at what City of Bloomington Utilities. They've tracked how many peak storms we're getting. We're getting a lot more peak storms, and with that, we get a lot more runoff, which brings in sediment and nutrients into the lake. Seeing more peaks associated with that runoff in total organic carbon, which then complicates the water treatment process. And so yeah, I think it is making a big difference in terms of, and not just the peak rainfall, but also the warmer weather. And when you have warm water, that's when algae really starts to get out of control.
Okay, and another, oops, go ahead.
Sherry, is there anything being done now in terms of agriculture in that area, in terms of limiting any of the runoff? I just drive through there every day, and I see between Nashville and Bloomington. Just curious.
Well, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts and the Natural Resources Conservation Service work with farmers to implement best management practices, and there are programs that help farmers financially with their activities, but their budgets are pretty small. So that's one of the things that the result of this watershed management plan can do, is to complement those budgets, would bring in more money for implementation of best management practices in agriculture or other areas.
Okay, has there been?
We need to hold for questions for just a minute. Sherry, are you able to stay after for a few minutes to take additional questions?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So we're going to close the meeting, but then we'll have questions right after. Sarah and Charlotte will get to you. Thank you. In honor of your presentation today, Sherry, we'll be making a donation to Teachers Warehouse, and we appreciate you being here today.
All right, thank you.
I would like to have Sally Gaskell introduce next week's program.
Next week, we'll be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Americans for Disabilities Act, which, after all, is one of our country's most comprehensive pieces of civil rights legislation. The speaker will be Brandy Hamilton from Life Designs, and she'll be talking about employment services for individuals with disabilities.
Thanks, Sally. Very timely program. Looking forward to hearing that. Let's close the meeting by reciting the four-way test +1 together. Of the things we
think, say, or do.
First
Is it the truth?
Second,
is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill, better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And fifth,
is
fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
That concludes our official meeting for today. Thank you all for being here, and we have a few moments for some more questions to Sherry.
Good. Okay.